Hi, and welcome to the Do Something Indie show. We have episode 37 for you. Can you believe I've done 37 episodes of this silly show? Yes, I have. And we have another show for you tonight. And this is going to be a fun show because I have Thomas Breedlove, the Indianapolis skateboard journalist, on my show. And I did an interview with him down at the Cummings building in the really cool little park that they have there to the south of it by Washington Street. And we just talked about stuff. He's been doing his version of reporting and videos for the last 4 years. And it just seems like to get like what's real anymore, you have to rely on some of us folks out there that are just giving it to you real, uncut. No, not super professional, but we're going to give it to you real. And that's what we promised to do. So let's get to this show. And you can check out Thomas and hey, check out his stuff on YouTube. I got the links in here and all that good stuff. So enjoy the show. And I'll be back after we do this interview. So let's get the thing going. Hi, this is John Schmitz for the Do Something Indie show, and I'm downtown here, and we are at the Cummings building, and they have a really nice little green area here. And I've run into a friend of mine that we've sort of crossed paths because he actually does videos long before I did, and he just had his 201 video out of how many years?
It's been 4 years I've been at it.
4 years he's been at it.
4 years, yeah.
And his name's Thomas Breedlove, and he is the skateboard journalist.
Of Indianapolis.
Of Indianapolis. I mean, of the world, in my opinion.
I'm hoping there's going to be more skateboard journalists in other cities.
It's
one of my goals.
Well, I was going to try to be the bike. It seems like we always ran into each other when I was riding my bike down here, but I'm not as coordinated as he is. He's got a cool little camera. And his style is to basically document this. And I've been in a couple videos just because. And in fact, the first time I met you,
in person,
I was in your video
yeah.
because we talked back and forth. I'd seen his work. I love it. And he was like looking at mine. He said he liked it. So, and then we saw each other and we just started talking. It was the day after the riot, really.
It was the morning after, I think. Or maybe it was already noon. I can't even remember.
Helen Reddy song?
It was morning
it's the
for
morning
me.
after, or whatever that is. But yeah, and he's got a building downtown. So I'm going to let Thomas introduce himself here and say how he's been doing this and what his style is. You've heard from me, now let's hear from Thomas.
Well, 4 years ago, my wife was sick and I had been sick. We both had cancer, and I started skateboarding again because I had a little bit of nerve damage in my feet and I wanted to get my balance back, and I just kept pushing through. We always talk about that as skateboarders, push through. And that's what I did, and I started to feel a lot better from the skateboarding. And while I was doing that and going through the crisis of trying to take care of our 2-year-old and my wife being sick at the same time and keep my business going, I would go out and skate whatever little chance I could. And I knew a lot of people from doing that, and I started filming different events. The first event, I went over to IUPUI and videoed the Westboro Baptist protest because I am a former graduate of IUPUI. I was a religious studies major. So that interested me, and it was right across the street from the cancer hospital where we, had been a lot in those days. And so I thought, I'm going to go over there and video that. And I went home with all my footage, went back to my office and looked at it, and I came up with the idea right then. I'm going to call myself the Indianapolis skateboard journalist and just go out and start filming people.
Now, were you on your skateboard that day?
I was. I was actually on a longboard. I hadn't made the transition to the shorter board yet, but I was just about to.
So, yeah, for you skaters out there, that's a tough decision.
Yeah.
So how long have you been skateboarding?
I've been skateboarding all my life, off and on, since grade school days, even before I stepped on a skateboard, but I didn't always do it. I always had to have breaks. I think the first really big skateboarding occurrence for me was around 13, 14 years old when the new decks were coming out in the 80s, and I saw one and I thought, wow, that's different.
And we were building our own half pipes
Yeah.
and all that. So, and you probably could do a lot of tricks on that, can you, on the half pipes? and all
No,
that?
you know, I was always a street skater.
Okay.
I skated
okay.
a little bit
I mean,
of
you
ramp,
look like
but
you
I'm
could
not,
go there, though. I mean, you do. No offense or anything, but you look a little crazy.
I cannot do the wall rides anymore. I'm working up to it again. I'm trying to get back to it.
Yeah, and you know, I love it. I love the, you know, it's just a free spirit type of interview, and I'm going to post where you can see Thomas's, where you can see the skateboard journalist. Can you go all the way back to that first video? I mean, do you have?
You can on YouTube. I
on
don't
YouTube,
have
okay.
everything on my personal site, which I really just started putting material on heavily when this COVID-19 started happening. I started coming down here about once a week or so and putting a video out every week.
So if you go to your
your
YouTube channel, I'm assuming it's the Skateboard Journalist.
No, you have to find it
yeah.
at T.A. Breedlove. I've never worked that out, but I do have a website that will get you to the YouTube videos, so that you can go to the actual channel.
I will post all that. You have got to watch the videos,
and that's either just skateboardjournalist.com or tabreedlove.com.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Breedlove. That sounds like a private investigator. You know.
No.
And that's sort of a little bit what you do in real life when you're not a superhero.
It's just litigation support. I don't have a PI license or anything. We do research and non-party discovery for insurance companies and law firms and plaintiff attorneys. And
so if you need some of that, you know, get this guy here. He just skate by and take pictures of him.
I've been doing that a lot longer than these videos. I've been doing that for 18 years.
Yeah, trust me. In our business, that pays a little bit better than these videos.
My parents are just still happy that I'm doing something besides skateboarding. You know.
Yeah. Well, you can't get too crazy when you got a camera, right? So you got to, you know, watch your P's and Q's on that. But so let's get down to business here. Let's talk about, you know, you've had your office down here for about 11 years.
No, it's been 18 years.
Oh, 18 years.
Here.
Well,
Yeah,
that's how good of a listener I am, you know. And we were talking earlier about what you've seen in those 18 years and what's going on now. So let's just run through a little timeline of that, of, you know, what you saw, the build up, and then, you know, what happened after that. So,
you know, when I first came down here, there was a homeless problem. This lovely area that we're sitting in was not here.
Yeah.
This is actually where a lot of homeless people used to hang out, right here, and in a building over where they built all those apartments.
Oh yeah, that one was vacant.
It was vacant, and they all hung out on the back, and I'd go up in my parking garage and sometimes look out and just see so many people and wonder what is going on. They'd be fighting with each other. Sometimes all kinds of stuff was going on over there. And, you know, back in the day, I remember coming out. I kind of had an epiphany one night when I worked late. I came out. It was in the wintertime, so there's a lot of snow on the ground, but it was warmer that day. So there's a lot of fog at night.
Okay.
And they used to play this falcon, you know, sounds to scare off the sparrows. You know what I'm talking about? And
yeah,
so
the starlings.
all of
and
a sudden
whatnot.
I hear that, the starlings, and then I hear that noise, and then I look around and there's all these homeless people. Yeah, and I felt like I was in a horror movie. You know, that's how bad it was down here at one time. And then things got better. Things over the years really started, a lot of growth, a lot of building. You know, when I started 4 years ago filming, I thought, wow, look, this city's really growing, all these new things. And it's been like that up until COVID-19. And during the last few years, though, there's been a lot of drugs on the street, a lot of homeless people on the street. There's drug dealers down here every day selling drugs to people, testing out their cuts on the homeless. And that's what I hear.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody remembers, but about a couple years they had some trouble with some bad fentanyl that was taking some people out, OD, and I mean they had cut, you know, like you just said, testing it out on some people, and there was about 20 of them that OD'd on. Some lived, some didn't, but it was you know.
We start seeing it every day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
That's how bad it got. We right around our building, and we saw people taking their clothes off and people urinating right out in the middle of the public. I finally told my wife, don't be bringing our 3-year-old down here.
He'll be peeing in the street,
well, it's not
from
safe.
example. You
Yeah.
know? Well, and the other thing is, just about a couple years ago, the Katy was big, and you know, I don't think we're trying to give you a lesson on drugs or anything, but it is basically, it's just roach spray or rat poison, and you put 5 squirts on there or 7 squirts on there, and I think people didn't know that, and they put too much, and that's when you would see somebody out in the middle of the road, or naked, or just barking like a dog, or something's going to get them, you know, and that's just like, wow. I mean, it's just that type of stuff, and that's very easy to get. You just go buy some, and you can spray it on anything, and so the readily availability of stuff that'll get you high is just
no, and it'll put them in a seizure. They'll foam at the mouth, and a lot of come out of it or not come out of it.
Yeah.
And right now, what I see going on right this week, there's something that's causing people to fall asleep standing up. Their eyes are shut, and they're just, you know, kind of hovering like this, and I don't know what's going on. But I've seen this multiple times today and yesterday, and haven't been out that much, so I shouldn't be seeing that as often. We'll
have to have another interview and get back with you on that, because, you know, but that's how this stuff does evolve, and folks move around. And since the COVID, a lot of these people were up by the library, and the library closed down, and then this down here by the bus stop. And so it's just a matter of how things get moved around. And if you had followed some of my covering of the homeless camps before I did any shows or anything, you could see that if a homeless camp got too visible, the city would come in and clean it out. And then they came up with this homeless Bill of Rights, where if you're on public property, they can't just come and throw you out. So they came up with creative ideas that, well, we're going to paint this bridge. You just go out for a little while, and then mysteriously they don't let them come back. So, you know, there's been ways to sort of move folks around. But I'll tell you, you'd be surprised how many camps there are where you wouldn't even think somebody's staying. They're just back in little nooks and crannies of everything. But now it seems like they're just right out all day and night, right out here causing troubles for businesses. You know, I interviewed some downtown businesses that have been affected by this. And you, as somebody that has a family, you're afraid to bring your wife and your kids down here because of you know, how dangerous it can be, or what they might learn. You know, I've learned just from observing this is it's more than I want to learn. But
it's X-rated a lot of times.
Yeah, I you know, yeah, but you know, then, you know, I'm a guy that I like to do things, and I know you're a guy that just doesn't like to sit around and watch stuff go bad. We try to come up with what's the solution. And man, this is a tricky one, isn't it? When you're dealing with somebody that doesn't want to be helped, and they don't care. When they just don't care anymore, it's tough.
Are you talking about our mayor and city county council, because they don't seem to acknowledge this issue?
Well, you know,
all.
I do believe that, you know, old Ronald Reagan had the trickle down economics. I think we have a trickle down attitude here. It's if they don't care and they don't enforce it, then people don't care, and they keep pushing that envelope. And you know, we could have seen that with the riots when on Friday night they came down. It was bad on Friday night, but Saturday night it was really bad because nothing happened Friday night. You know, nobody paid attention to them. And finally on Saturday night, people started paying attention when there's, you know, looting and
3 people shot.
Yeah, and
killed.
So that was like, oh, well, we can't have that. Yeah, and it's just very, very interesting times. And, you know, I asked folks, I said, you know, I asked, you know, people, what's your opinion? Do you think we're going to keep spiraling out of control, or you think this is something's going to just flatline, or just something that, obviously, the only thing I can see is we got to work our way up?
If attitudes don't change with the mayor and the city county council, people are going to flee this city. That's the consensus that I've been getting from people that I talk to. They don't, you know, it's a double whammy with what's going on here, and plus the COVID-19.
Right, yeah, and you know, and really the COVID-19 is just something that really can't be helped. I think it could have been, you know, obviously treated better with, you know, just shut everything down and not come up with a plan. That's killing everybody.
If masks work, then we don't need to shut anything down, right?
Yeah. It just seems like they just muddle around and just have no idea. If you call the health department, try to get numbers, it's just a giant runaround. And I think that really scares people about the inconsistency.
I think that's the biggest problem that we face locally, and quite frankly, just about everywhere in society right now, is we cannot get honest answers from our officials.
And man, when you start losing credibility and faith in that, so how much more time do you think said business owners are going to give them? Is it a month, or you think they're going to give them 6 months, or you think they're
It
already at
depends
the,
on
at the
it.
end of their
I think it
strings?
depends on people's individual situations. There's only so much they can hold out. At some point, they're not going to have enough money in stimulus to hang on. And my friends who left before this happened, they are so happy that they did. I can't tell you. I've had a few friends that moved from condos.
They're not spiking the football, are they?
they're just about.
Yeah, it's happy dance and all that. Well, if you look at the surrounding counties, they've followed the governor's orders, and and I see our Marion County numbers staying flat, but we had a lot of people that lost people that they knew here that died from this, and yeah, that threat's real. But it's almost like, okay, we got a hole in the boat. We're trying to bail the COVID virus water out, so let's shut everything down. So we'll go financially, and we just got another hole in the boat. We just can't bail fast enough. And now let's put a mask ordinance on that really was not well thought out, that said homeless people are exempt from, and other people are exempt from. And so that makes you start thinking, well, why aren't I exempt? And it just adds to the chaos and confusion of what are the rules. So yeah, I can definitely sense the frustration with the business owners I've talked to here. And my thing is, unless we start getting some conventions back and the sports teams playing, that's where, these businesses downtown were promised that by paying these rents and these taxes and all this other stuff. So
hey, you won't have to defund the police. There won't be any money for police. There won't be any money for fire. There won't be any money for the pensions.
Right. Yeah.
It will go away if something doesn't happen, and people don't realize how serious this is. I don't think.
Yeah. That is the elephant in the room, so to speak, is the psychological damage of cooping somebody up. So say if you're in prison, the way they punish you is putting you in isolation, and so. That's how I think a lot of people end up feeling, that they're in isolation, and they get to a breaking point, and then they snap and said, I'm not wearing your mask, and then they're not snapping on the right people. They're snapping on their friends on social media, and then they're snapping back because they're mad because they're not doing such and such. And then we have a lot of people that are just like out of control, mad at each other, and makes for interesting videos, I'm sure, and trying to cover this it's actually a humanitarian situation with this homeless stuff. I mean, it's getting to that point where, what do we do? I mean,
it's not what I expected to be filming when I started filming out here, but this is what it's led to filming. And because I just wanted to film Indianapolis, well, this is what it's become, and there's no avoiding it. If you take, especially on a skateboard with a little bit of speed, or on a bicycle, moving around the streets of Indianapolis, you will see occurrence after occurrence of what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's not an easy fix. It is definitely not an easy fix. You just can't throw these people away.
No,
you can't.
There's people out here I know that everybody's got potential. Some people though, they're just right on the edge of not coming back. You want to help them and get them off the street before they get too far.
Yeah, and that's tough to discern, because they all have a game. They all have a story. Discerning what's true, false, and otherwise is always interesting. I chuckle. I've been a masonry contractor for 30 years, and I've heard employee stories. And if I hear a new one anymore, I'm like, well, that was pretty creative. I usually laugh about that. But it's getting to be that same way with somebody that's down and out. They always have a story, and I swear, if they think their excuse is good enough, then it's okay. And I think we're sort of leading that way to our society. If the excuse is good enough, why I shouldn't pay my rent or why I shouldn't do what I'm supposed to do, then it's okay. You need to cut me a break. It's not a matter of, let's do what it takes to get it done. So I see, I just see a lack of discipline and respect in a lot of areas where right now we need a lot of respect with each other, because some short fuses out there, and
I don't understand it. I can go out and talk to all kinds of many diverse people and get along with them just fine out on the streets. I come home, sit in front of my computer, and the fight is on if I say one tiny thing that just touches the nerve of somebody,
Yeah,
and then
you'll be shamed. And I was telling my wife that I feel sorry for anybody named Karen, and I got a bunch of friends named Karen, and I feel sorry for you. When I say Karen, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about somebody else. And my thing on social media, I came up with a new name for that. It's Karen A. Troll. That's the whole name. The middle initials A and the last name's Troll. And those are the people that they just come on your page or your site and just dog you for no reason. It's just maybe they don't even like your hat, or I don't know what sets them off, or if I just look like somebody that makes them mad, or how that works. But or if it makes them feel better, if they can go beat somebody up on social media. But I don't get it, and they just assume you're this, and if they know what you do or how you are, they would not say that. But it's just like, well, I hope you feel better. I hope you feel better beating on me there, because but like I said, it's just a very interesting time where I keep preaching, be kind, love one another, love your neighbor, and all that, and I see it just seems like it's gone worse since I did that prayer on WHMB about loving your neighbor, and if everybody did it, who would be hateful?
My two greatest inspirations for being out here on the street, Mr. Rogers and Hunter S. Thompson. So
now, hold on a second. I don't want to sound Hunter S. Thompson. Who's that? I don't know.
Oh,
you gotta help me.
He's a writer that he's passed away. He wrote Hell's Angels.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really
Fear and Loathing, Las Vegas.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah,
we even talked about this before. This is how dense I can be at times. Now, Mr. Rogers, I was just thinking about that. Mr. Rogers would love this mask thing, wouldn't he? He'd have a mask for when he went outside, and he'd come in and he'd switch it to his inside mask.
He might have one made out of woolly sweater material.
And he'd have a hush puppy one probably, and he'd probably have shoes that were higher. I mean, he would be great at this.
I'm looking at trying to figure out how to build one that's see-through, so we can still see each other's expressions and protect each other at the same time.
Now a lot of people just have theirs on there. Some people have like the finger across there, and so other people have their favorite political person or whatever, or a fake smile or vampire teeth or whatever. So that's what I do like about people. We do make lemonade out of lemons sometimes.
Yeah.
Because and we have to joke about this, what's going on sometimes. I mean, sometimes not, because it is serious. If you lost a loved one or whatever, or somebody that's gotten really sick. But I know a lot of people that just don't really know anybody. And then when you hear about all this stuff and you don't see it, you just start wondering, what's up with this?
Well, it's also, what I can't stand about this COVID-19 is so many different people's taking it and using it to blame whatever political group of people they don't like for everybody who's died.
Yeah, it's like blaming a hurricane on somebody. It's like, whoa, and this is like trying to stop one. I mean,
that's been done.
And then we have our cities boarded up like it's got hit by a hurricane. So it's just so many different weird scenarios here. And we joke around about what's next, but this is the year of the 17-year cicada. So it should be. Usually they come out about this time of the year, so we'd be hearing some noise. Now, these are all new trees here. You wouldn't hear this here, but if you've got an established neighborhood with, say, some oak trees in it, it's going to get loud here pretty soon. Now, they don't last but for a couple weeks, but this is the year. 2003 was the last time we had them, and it's every 17 years they have a large hatch. So I'm sure people will be freaking out about that. And then my other joke is that there's going to be burning frogs falling from the sky, or is their next catastrophe. But I mean, it's like, what's next? I mean, really, what is next? But I always try to, I haven't been telling any bad dad jokes for a while, and, so I thought I would tell one that would be maybe related to the coronavirus, and some of you that follow me may have heard this, but, and so I'm going to try this on Thomas here. Hey, Thomas, did you hear about the surfer? Since you're a skate guy, surfers guys, it's like similar. Did you hear about the surfer that tested positive for the coronavirus?
I haven't heard of any surfers testing positive.
Well, he caught it on the second wave.
Oh, he did?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, skateboard guys, that's one of the things I heard. A skateboard guy, he works for 3 days so he can skate for 4. Is that right?
No.
That's a surfer again. I'm sorry.
It's
that's
more a surfer.
More a surfer.
Yeah.
So, did you ever thought about going out and being like a surf bum out in California?
I've thought about it. Yeah, I actually have.
I think it'd be fun for about a month. Maybe.
I go down to Florida sometimes and do a little bit of surfing. And what I find, and I try to, I've tried to get business down with attorneys down in Florida, but they're not in their office as much as lawyers here.
Well, it's trying to work with attorneys, you need a medal for that in itself. But yeah, there's plenty of litigations going on, aren't there? I think
there's no shortage of it, and it seems like whenever the economy takes a downturn, people start suing each other
or something
more than
like
ever.
COVID. I mean, like
anything.
I said, I really think it's a lot of the stuff that we see on social media and with homeless, with anybody, is symptoms of being pretty much locked down. We're a society that interacts, that goes to games, that cheers at movies, that goes to art exhibits. We go and we do things, and when we can't do that, we just have less freedom. And there's a story that I tell about when I was a kid. I went to my grandma and grandpa's house, and they had a pond that was getting drained, and there was a giant bullfrog, and one of the guys that was draining the pond caught it for me, and I had this giant bullfrog. I'm like 8 years old, and I just love this bullfrog, and I asked my grandpa if I could keep it. I said, we got a cage. I know there's a cage in the barn. Can we keep it? My grandpa says, no, Johnny, you can't keep this. You cannot cage something like this. They just won't live. And I said, well, I just begged him if I could keep it. So he finally said, okay, I'll let you keep it. So we put it in this cage, and about 2 days later, it had bumped its nose on there, it was bleeding, and it died. And I'm like, I looked at that, I'm like, I was sad, why did my grandpa let this bullfrog, let my frog die? And, but what he was doing is teaching me a lesson that, you cannot keep something that you're not supposed to have, and you can't put something in an environment that it's not used to, because it can't survive. And that story sort of reminds me of how we have people that are used to going to games and doing. Now some introverts, they're fine with this.
Hey, sports people are having the hardest time right
now.
Yeah,
this is a dirty trick the governor does. Hey, let's make sports betting legal, and then let's cancel all the sports.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So I see some people betting on, when's the sun going to come up and how many clouds are going to be, just crazy stuff. And but we try to keep entertained.
The first wave of this wasn't that difficult for us.
Surfer didn't catch it on that one. Yeah, the first wave. But I don't know if we had a second wave.
They say we're in it now. That's kind of where the news is. So, during that first wave, it happened at the same time of the year that I had been diagnosed with cancer for a second time and had to do chemo. I know what it's like to have to do social isolation. It did drive me crazy for 12 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And a little bit longer.
But at that point, you did see some light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that right now it's so...
You don't know. This could be going on for 10 years. I just read in an article yesterday.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, we're always going to have a flu virus, whether it's going to be this particular one or not, but we're always going to have something come along. I mean, we had polio in the 40s and 50s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. We had polio, and it was like, and then they found a cure in 56. But then we have something else comes along, and then it seems like polio got cured, and then we have cancer. And I don't know if you ever had this happen, but when we had the chicken pox, we would get all the kids in the neighborhood. We have a chicken pox party, and everybody catch it at the same time. We'd be all over it. So I've heard of those things happening, but this seems way different than that.
This thing seems to kill people indiscriminately. We don't know, why certain people die and other people don't until they figure that out. I've heard blood types, and I've heard genetics.
I got the bad one too, by the way, and I got a little asthma. That's why I got a scratchy voice, and I got all these things. But I'm just too mean, I guess, to do something. But I mean, all the homeless folks that I serve, and all the chances I've had to be exposed to it, I would think I'd had to been exposed. But
I too, I had a homeless guy hug me not too long into the start of it, and so I waited 2 weeks, and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't get it. And there was the protest over at the governor's mansion.
Oh yeah, we were there.
I
didn't see you there.
No, made it through that. Made it through the protest that they had down here without getting it. There were certain news people that I would see on the social media talking about how everyone's going to be ill now because those protests.
Oh yeah,
go back to work.
Yeah, so that was the big joke on that. It was government overreach Facebook page, and I was viewing some of the comments on there about how sick they were, and it was all this and not one. And then what's really funny is a lot of people that went to the BLM protests were the same ones saying, I hope you die from it. And then a month later they're out there doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Now granted, they had about half of those folks, or probably even 3/4, had masks on. They that was. But I didn't see at the governor's mansion. I saw a few masks, but
not many.
And,
but
and
I didn't see them on the news people that were doing the talking on social media either. So
yeah, it's like who knows? I mean, who knows? It's like it's what it is. But I think what's noteworthy is the attitude from this, not the actual virus itself. I mean, early on they were telling us there's going to be bodies in the streets. There's not enough ventilators. And then if you really do some research on ventilators are awful because in your lungs you have one cell wall that transfers the oxygen from CO2. And if you force that with a ventilator, it actually makes that wall, it expands it, in some cases too much. And that weakens it, and then it breaks down. So really a ventilator should be a last resort. And because what happens is you're weakening that wall, whereas our bodies naturally will have inflammation to get us through that. Now if your oxygen's not up enough, then that causes other problems, and that's where fitness comes in. And that's why I think when you have your cancer thing, you get back on the board, you do that exercise. I'm a big believer in circulation and cerebral circulation and all that. You got to keep that blood moving, and if you don't, you get stagnant.
No, and they told me that one of the chemos that I took could cause fibrosis down the road. So it's another reason why.
Yeah, lucky you, right?
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, that my thing is like I just don't want to ever stop moving. I feel like if I ever quit exercising, I would die in weeks. I know that's a mental thing.
I had the same doctors over there that Lance Armstrong had, that and he didn't take that particular. It's called bleomycin because of what it could do to his lungs.
Okay, yeah, he had some. Yeah, Lance, he's an interesting guy. But, that's another story of somebody that had cancer and came back to do extraordinary things on a bike and be fit and all that. But, I think that is, you go back to the psychological thing about, our keeping our psyche up is very important. And because, depression's like a pit that just drags you down very, very slowly. And a lot of folks that have depression, they don't even know it. And but if you look at your symptoms of lashing out at others, and I tell people, I said, you got to be careful with that because that just is a display of how unhappy you are. You're just announcing to the world.
I see people who are admittedly self-depressed. They admit it, and that they take medicine for it, and they are people who do lash out a lot of times at people on social media.
Like they say you hurt the one you love, but a lot of times it's just they have to get it out. And maybe they don't even love that person, but and then that person gets offended because why are they being mean to me? But if we understand that person may be having a bad day, and grow a little thicker skin and give them a little mercy, that can go a long way. And just don't take it personally, but
it's hard to.
It's hard not to. Oh yeah, trust me. I got my share of hater trolls, so I know how that goes. And I don't know who couldn't like me or you. I think we're the two best guys in this entire park. Because those other two just left. but that's what I'm going to go with, and I'm sticking with that. So that's going to wrap up this interview, and we're going to do some collaboration, but we're definitely going to do some cross promoting on things. And I know I know some of you in my audience have already checked out some videos, and I will post where you can go for the YouTube, and on mine that's the best way to archive the YouTube because you don't have to go through all my blah 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 on my Facebook page. You can get right to the videos that you want to watch, and we've enjoyed doing this. I know you've enjoyed doing it, and I will just see how long we keep going. Right?
I'm shooting for 10 years.
10 years. Wow, you're
more if I can, but 10 is the goal now.
Well,
I'm 4 years in. I got 6 more to go.
So we'll try to do some update things and see what we're doing. What we'll do is we'll do an update when we see either the city in the dumpster or back on the pedestal. That's what we'll shoot for to see that. It may take 2 months, may take 6 years, it may take Thomas running for mayor to get it done.
No, that's never going to happen.
The skateboard mayor.
I might run for city county council, but not mayor.
All right, well, you run for the council, I'll run for that daggone mayor, and we'll turn some stuff around. So, thanks for tuning in, and I've enjoyed this, and we'll see you out on the road.
All right, see you around, John.
All right.
Well, I really enjoyed talking to Thomas, and I do believe we will be doing some collaboration in the future on some events. I love his style. I just like his laid back attitude. We could sit there and talk for a long time, and it's just really cool seeing somebody else out there, doing something to check out what's going on in our city. It's like he's like the night watchman. He's watching what's going on and letting you know. So go to his YouTube channel and check out some of his videos. It's really cool. He just sort of has invented this himself, and it works. It works well. So I hope you enjoyed this little interview. And next week I'm going to keep you in suspense about next week's guest. I think this one I have not done the interview yet. I have the interview tomorrow, and I really don't know what to expect on this. This person is pretty energetic, like myself, so the camera may not be able to handle all that energy. Who knows? But I hope you'll tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. for that. And then after that, I'm going to have Alan Bridwell with Charity House right here in Mars Hill. They're doing some wonderful things with a project they're working on. And I'm going to bring all that information to you then. So, and otherwise, Sunday mornings at our church, Facebook church, if you want to tune in for that, we generally will cover a relevant topic that's actually something that you can use. Sometimes it turns into therapy. You never know. I'm a part-time preacher, part-time psychologist, most of the time bricklayer. So thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time on the Do Something Indie Show.